you're going to trust your gut. Okay. This is actually kind of a fun one because trusting your gut can feel scary after betrayal trauma. But the reality is that trusting your gut can, I like to take baby steps in trusting your gut, which is just like tapping into your own desire. Okay. So I am going to trust my gut by starting my day and only doing the chores I want to do today, which might not be any chores at all. Like, I'm just going to spend a day. I'm not talking about like throwing your hands in the air and saying, I don't care about my home management anymore. But like, this is just an example. I'm going to take a day and only do the chores I want to do. So I'm going to go in my boys' room and start. This happened to me the other day because gave myself this challenge. I went into my boys' room. I was like, I really just want to clean up a little bit. And so I started cleaning their room. And I got to a point that I was like, oh, now I'm getting mad at my boys. They're not even here. I'm getting mad at them because I'm cleaning up stuff that I like is irritating to me that they didn't already clean up. I guess I'm done now. I'm going to be done cleaning their room now. And then I left. And then I went and did the next thing that sounded like it was just be nice to me if this were done. Right. And so I kind of spent my whole day tapping into my own desire and listening to my body when I decided that it was time for me to be done, like conclude any activity. And it was a really fun activity to do because it was like in a very small way with no consequences. It was teaching me how to listen to my own desire and respond to it, and trust myself that like cleaning my boy's bedroom just that much is going to be enough for today. Like I could just trust my intuition on that. Um, so so that's like a small way that we're going to begin trusting our own intuition. I also want you to view fear as a red flag. Okay. I have a saying that one day I'll write a book about and you can all read it. It's going to be great, I'm sure. but but the title is My God is Not a God of Fear. Okay. So my hypothesis or theory, I guess, here is that intuition is not fear based. Intuition is faith based. So I was driving away just yesterday. Was it yesterday? I had to do something at the church and then I needed to go run some errands. And my boy was babysitting my younger boy, and they're like 10 and 7. Okay. And as I was driving away from the church, I had that like fear response that I know all moms are very familiar with, where I was like, maybe I should go home first and just make sure that they're both alive. And like, I had this, and it was so fear response that like my whole life could crumble if I don't go home quick and check on my boys, right? And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go home and check on my boys because nothing about that felt faith based to me. It felt so based in fear. And because I have this theory, I was like, I believe that my God will not communicate with me in a way of fear. And so I decided to keep going and run my errands. Obviously, I came home and everything was fine. Um, Faith-based intuition feels very different than fear-based intuition. So I want you to view fear as a red flag, especially in this space when your whole life is kind of living in fear and anxiety because your rug was just pulled out from under you. It makes perfect sense that your brain would be like looking for fear around every corner as a signal to you that like danger lurks, right? Um, and so I just want you to recognize that, like, if your husband is behaving in a certain way, if it's fear that comes up for you, that's like, you should probably talk to him about this right now. Like, you're in danger. He's probably lying to you again, or something like that. Consider it, like, process it. Tell your body that it's going to be okay. You could find out about it tomorrow. You could find out about it today. It's not going to change anything. But like, I want you to get to a place where you're not listening and responding immediately to fear because fear is not true intuition. Fear is just fear. Okay. All right. So that's rebuilding trust within yourself. We're trusting our own desire and intuition. We're being aware of fear and we're trying not to act from the fuel of fear because I don't want you to have to live in fear and use that as your fuel in your tank. Okay.
What I think is interesting about that, Andy, is you can see this a lot of examples, a lot of life maybe around. When we make decisions based out of fear, we often end up creating the exact thing that we're afraid of. And that's, it has to do with our brains don't understand the negative words. Like they don't interpret them. They only hear the commands. Like one of my favorite studies was, it was like a driving test and they had red cones. It was like some sort of skinny lane. And they told the drivers, don't hit the cones. Don't hit the cones. Don't hit the cones. And I can't remember what the percentage was, but the drivers hit the cones at some percentage rate. And then they told like the other group, like follow the white line or like whatever it is that was on the other side of the cones. Like that was the instructions, do this. And none of those drivers hit the cones. And I've watched this a lot in relationships. This is with money. And this betrayal stuff happens even with money. Financial infidelity is a real thing. Your spouse opens up a credit card you had no idea about, or there's those student loans they didn't tell you about, or they spent all that money, or there was an entire income source that you didn't know about. Like it, so it applies. But just this idea that like I'm not going to have the financial situation that my parents had, or I'm not going to have the marriage, or I'm not going to have my husband. I'm not going to be that wife that that my friends have, or like whatever it is. And so, and this is what I did. I have a hard time telling my story because people are still in my life. We've reconciled. Some of us have reconciled. Some of them I hope to reconcile. So maybe when people die, I can tell my story more openly. But we were in a situation where, like, I said I would never be this kind of a wife. I'll just say it that way. I will never expect this from my husband. And so when things started to like show up that would end up being my kind of marriage, out of fear, I didn't know how to respond because it wasn't like I will have this kind of marriage instead. It was I won't have this kind of marriage. So I didn't have
Yeah.
tools to make it different. All I knew was just shut up and don't see it or say it or just like give in, just do what's being asked of you. So I ended up in the exact same damn situation that I decided as a teenager or as a cult, like whatever it was that I made that decision. I will not have this dynamic in my marriage. Um, So for me, that's what I've seen with fear. Like I will not be this way I will not have this kind of money as my parents. And they do the same. So it's just that like when we make
Mm-hmm.
decisions out of fear, we will often end up creating the exact thing that we were trying to run from because we don't give ourselves tools. It's just that like, don't think about the hippo. Don't think about the hippo. Do you see that?
Yeah. Which it like, our brains are just so powerful. They really are, and we will always create the result of what the thought is that we put in. So, if I have the thought of, "Yeah, well, I don't wanna have this relationship that my parents had," then in my result, like, I'm always going to have something that points right back to that, and it's gonna be like, "Oh, look at that." And what you're talking about is the fuel is that we bring into that is fear. Now, if I have the thought of, like, I don't wanna have the same relationship that my parents had, and my fuel instead is hope, that's going to lead me to like curiosity behavior. Well, what kinds of things would allow me to have a different relationship than what my parents had? What kind of conversations can I have with my husband that will lend itself to having a different relationship? And why do I want a different relationship than what my parents had? Is it because there's something flawed about my parents' relationship? Or was my parents' relationship, that's how they needed to have it, and I choose to have a different one or something? Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
I could really go off on that. But the reality is, like, our brains just always wanna be proven right. So whatever the thought is that we put in, that's what we'll get as a result.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which just
Mhm.
means you're really powerful, like, you literally create your own reality. Not in a crazy way, but, like, in a real way, you create your own reality. So what kind of power do you want to use?
Mhm. Well, isn't
Um,
that part of what's hard this last phase when you're rebuilding trust with yourself? I mean, I think that's for me, that was what was so uh crazy about my situation is like all the things that you talk yourself into and tell yourself. And that's why you can't trust yourself, is because like I realized I could create any excuse, I could rationalize anybody's behavior.
mhm.
Like I was good. I was good. And that was unnerving for me, how good I was at creating whatever picture needed to be the picture for me to make it through another week or day or year or whatever it was. Like I was good at it. And that was
Mhm.
freaky as hell.
Yeah, because we can create it. Yeah, we're masters at it. We are creators
Mhm.
by nature, by definition, by godly design. Yeah. Yeah. So how do you want to use your power? For good or for evil?
Mhm.
Like it's totally up to you. And I mean for good or for evil, not like you could take over the world, which of course you could, but for good or for evil for yourself. Like
Mhm.
how do you want to treat yourself? What life do you want to create for yourself? When you look into your future, what relationships do you want to have? What do you want the foundation of those relationships to look like?
Mhm.
You have all of that power to create that. And so, how do you want to go about doing that?
Mhm.
So, Emmeline,
All right,
I want to
yeah,
jump
go
in
for
for
it,
a
Sherry.
second. In the work that I do with women, I've seen lots of this kind of stuff myself, and the thing that is so amazing that happens is when we really decide to work on building that relationship with ourselves and the trust that we have with ourselves. We realize that we can go through the healing and the therapy and the, whatever it is that happens or that presents itself because we have our own back. So
Yes, it makes brilliant.
it's less about what, like you said before, like changing your husband's behavior. Like if he changed, then I would get to feel better. Right. But we can't do that. We can't change someone
Yeah.
else. So, but I can still feel better, actually. I can choose to have my own back. I can
Yeah.
choose to allow myself to feel whatever feelings I have without telling myself I should have known, or I shouldn't have this, or he shouldn't have that. Like all of this drama that we like to cook up. If we could just trust that we could be sad because this happened, like I can feel sad. I can do sad. I'm going to
Yeah.
allow myself to be sad because I'm worth feeling this emotion,
Yeah.
right?
And like to remind ourselves that the only reason we're mortal, like we're in a mortal existence, is to feel feelings. Like that's it.
Mhm.
Like we want opposition. We want the good and the bad. That's why we're here. And you don't have to be any particular religion. Like many religions profess that same belief. There's this amazing book called Busting Loose from the Money Game. Have you read that, Ruth? I
I
wonder as a
haven't.
financial
It's going
coach
on
if
my
you've read it.
list.
You okay, you have to read it. It's so good. Uh it's anyway, I don't, he might be agnostic for all I like, he definitely believes in a higher power, but he's not, it's not a religious text. But it's kind of like a new age view of our mortality. And it's fascinating. So look into that if you're
Okay.
so interested.
On my list.
But the premise behind his whole book is basically you had all power and were super bored. And so you decided to create an existence that would be challenging, that like you wanted an existence that would make you believe that you were limited, because as an unlimited being you were bored. So then it was like a bunch of you got together to play a game, like a board game, right? And you put rules in place and the most perfect virtual reality that could possibly exist, that and the objective of the game is like, can we trick ourselves into believing that we're no longer unlimited beings? And it worked. And here you are on earth as a limited being, and you're just in this like virtual reality game. And so the idea is, can you see your divinity? Can you see your complete abundance? Like, you're a divine being. You could create anything you want to. Like, you literally could create anything you want to. And so, what are you doing with that power? Are you believing that you're limited, or are you believing that you're abundant and unlimited? So really fascinating book, and it goes along with my own religious beliefs. So I thought it was kind of fun. Um, Even though he takes it in a different direction, but it's still fascinating if you like those kinds of uh, little tweaks to your belief system. Then it's a fun one.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's part of the thing too, is you can even, I believe that anything crappy can turn into something beautiful,
oh yeah,
right? Like any crap in your life is compost for some kind of growth and beauty. And I know when I was working through my situation, I would look and be like, well, how? Because my thing isn't just I want to feel things, I want to behave well, that I'm proud of, no matter what I'm feeling. That was my end goal. Like, I have a certain life that I want to live. I realized the real estate in my life had been owned by so many other people. I had, at some time, little by little, parcel by parcel, I no longer owned myself or my life or my feelings or any, like, it was pretty crazy. And I wanted to reclaim it so that no matter who I was around, I could still behave in a way that I respected. It took a lot of work, but I can honestly say, at least my most triggering people, the people that completely owned me before, they don't own nothing. And my favorite part is nobody can tell. We know what drama we had. Nobody else does. That's my favorite part
yeah,
about it. I'm happy that the dynamic with my husband that was involved with it, our marriage is awesome. I know a lot of people don't get that, but I even know ladies who, other kinds of betrayal, they ended up leaving their husband. Their lives are awesome. But just that point that you can get where you own yourself, you love yourself, you take care of yourself, you trust yourself, you make decisions that are good for yourself, your life can get beautiful. The details, I don't know, but you can have a beautiful life when you learn how to trust yourself.
yeah. That's so good. That's exactly it. It's, you're rebuilding that trust within yourself. You're creating the life that you want on purpose. And then it doesn't matter the behavior of other people. Like,
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter anymore. And I don't mean it doesn't matter like it doesn't affect you any longer, because it does still affect you. And you will still find triggers that get punched as you get further and further away from trauma. Like, you'll still get triggered, but it won't be like it is now. And you will find that you are more resilient, and that you have your own back, and you're creating a life that you really love on purpose. And then when you're at a point where you're then deciding, okay, well, who do I want in my life on purpose? This husband that, betrayed my trust. Now you can look at that relationship objectively, not from a place of, I need to leave him because I'm in danger emotionally because he betrayed my trust, but I either want to stay in this relationship because he continues to show me that he wants to rebuild that trust with me, and he's trying really hard to love me. Or I need to leave this relationship because I want a relationship that is built on trust, and he continues to show me that he is not willing to uh, either change the behavior that we've agreed upon. Like, I want to be married to somebody that never looks at porn. Well, if that's your case and your husband's still looking at porn, then I guess you don't want to be married to that person anymore. But now you're making that decision from a place of, this is the life that I choose for my future on purpose, not from a place of, I want to be married to somebody that doesn't look at porn because I never want to feel like I'm second to pornography, right? Because that's an uncomfortable feeling, and I don't want that. That's not what it's about. Once you have your own back, it's not about the porn at all. Like, you recognize that the porn has nothing to do with your worth. The porn has nothing to do with who you are. Um, and so then you get to make a decision. Okay, well, what do I want on my life on purpose?